It is a Tuesday morning. It is 9:30, or really close to 9:30 anyway. That means it's time for KCIM Sports Rewind. Jeff Blankman in the house, along with Mason Nealon today. Casey Miners is on a road trip today, so he's not available to join us today. But Mason, I tell you what a last week. Heart goes out to some of our area teams that fell just a little bit short. We'll talk about that coming up here in a moment as well. But what a week. One girls basketball team, two boys basketball teams making it down to the state tournament. So we've got more games coming up this week. We've got at least two games next week on the basketball courts, and looking forward to being down to the KC Center. How about you?
Yeah, in some weird way, I was tied to every single one of those outcomes with Exira now paying St. Albert, and I was doing the Coon-St. Albert game. I was at the Kemper game doing updates and at the Carroll game. So in a bunch of twisted different ways, I can somehow say I was a part of every single one of the teams that are down at state here.
Maybe that's why I keep saying you were at games you weren't at, because somehow you were tied to them. Is that it?
It's good, though, because, when we go down and call Exira, you'll know a lot about Exira, obviously, with you doing the game, and I'll know a good about St. Albert. But I'm happy to see those three teams there. I think those were three of the teams that we had kind of guessed could possibly be there. But at the same time, like you said, heart goes out to those that didn't make it when we had so many teams that were just right there on the doorstep of making it.
Yeah, and for you, last year you helped us out some, but you weren't a full part of our coverage here at this time of the year. So for you, how fun has this been, getting to see kind of how the playoffs play off, how it works here on the backside of things with the scheduling and everything else? This has been, I'm assuming, a pretty fun experience so far?
Yeah, last year I did South Central Calhoun throughout the playoffs, and both of those teams didn't make it all the way to state, but they were, I think, 2 rounds short. So after that, I was just, kind of done with it. But now, I mix and match different teams that you throw me with, and I get to see kind of the way that all of this works. And with it being kind of my alma mater making it last night, that was fun to watch that one. Kemper was fun to watch because that was a close game. And I think Exira had the best chance to make it because they, I wouldn't say blew out, but had a comfortable lead against GTRA. They didn't have to scare us like both Carroll and Kemper did.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Exira. We'll talk about them and their matchup coming up here with St. Albert here just shortly, and their win over GTRA last week as well. But let's start with the two teams that came up just a little bit short and stuff, the three teams. Yeah, let's start with the Coon Rapids Bayard girls. You did their game against St. Albert. A lot of people are going to look at that final score and not realize that that game was tighter than what most people expect. That was a tight game going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it was a 3-point game here and there almost the entire way through. And in the fourth quarter, I think, St. Albert's size and their experience of being down there and winning a state title last year kind of kicked in. And props to the Underwood girl and the Rutledge girl. Both of them kind of came on strong there. Malia Clayberg fouled out in the fourth quarter, and she was their defensive threat. She was the tallest girl, the one that was really keeping up with Underwood down there. But once she went out, that moved Ashton Clucky down. And, Ashton's a good defender, but she's not as tall as Malia.
Yep.
So it made it harder down low to guard, and that's kind of where the game got out of control. But, you saw the physicality if you were there. Both teams played super physical, played like they wanted to win, and I think Coon played very well throughout those first 3 quarters there and just kind of let it slip in the fourth quarter with Malia out. But props to Coon. You had Newell Fonda for 2 years straight, and they got better and better each one of the regional finals, but just were not able to get past some of those giants that they ran into.
Yeah, and you mentioned Malia. It sounds like Anna Hart did a really nice job kind of handling the pressure that St. Albert will throw at you. Kind of sounded like they were able to kind of take advantage of that and attack that pressure at times that night, at least through those first 3 quarters.
Yeah, I felt like, Anna was dribbling single-handedly through double teams and through presses. She split double teams probably 2 out of the 4 times that they would throw it at her. So about 50% of the time she's getting through these double teams here. Ran down the sidelines a couple of times there. And I will say Coon shot the ball really well. Anna had a 3 that banked way high off the backboard. And I think Aubrey had 2 or 3. Malia had 3 for 3. And next time we see her, I got to give her a little credit because she came in shooting 2 of 9 on the season and goes 3 for 3 that night. And I had kind of said in a broadcast earlier, Malia's not one that's going to step out and beat you on the 3-point line too often. I think she heard that and wanted to prove me wrong.
Big-time players step up in big games, and it sounds like that's probably why Malia was able to shoot so well that night, because she's one of those big-time players. But Aubrey Hoffbauer, you mentioned her here a moment ago. She finished up with 13, so gave them a really nice offensive game that night as well.
And I think 10 of those were in the first half there. She was kind of the piece that they needed in that first half, and that's what I had said during our halftime break there. Me and Devin both kind of agreed, Aubrey's really stepped up, and that's what you need against a St. Albert team that's got 4 or 5 that can beat you. You're going to need 3 to 4 of your own that can go out there and score for you.
Yeah, let's bump over to the Coon Rapids Bayard boys. They end up falling just a little bit short as well. Had to go up and take on a Boyden Hull team that I think was underseeded and underranked, and understandably why. They play in a really tough conference. Casey Miners was telling us yesterday he's got relation that lives up in Sheldon, and they're in that same conference. Boyden Hull, it was either their best player or one of their top players, and this is a team that returned from state a year ago with a lot of players back, was out early in the year, so a lot of those early losses that gave them, I think, 7 losses on the season came early. But he came back and was healthy after the Christmas break, and they'd been playing like a different basketball team with him back. So Kuhn was outstanding and not making any excuses for him. That was a great basketball team. We both thought they'd have a chance to get into the championship or at least into the Final Four with the way they have played all year. But they got seeded against a team that was a top 10 team to start the season, that was finally healthy, and that plays in an extremely difficult conference that had them ready. And it's just disappointing to have to travel all the way to Sioux City to have to play a team. You're the number 1 seed in that sub-state, and you have to actually go on the road. And I'm not blaming the association. Nobody wants to host games. I shouldn't say nobody. Carroll High, and thank you very much, Randy Beeson, for all of the games that Carroll High hosted, in the postseason. But it's hard to find schools now that want to host. So the only place they could find was probably Sioux City East. So, Kuhn, being the top seed in that sub-state, had the longest drive to have to go up there and play against a really good Boyden Hull team. Slow start, kind of crept their way back into the game. And then I know you wrote the story and got the details from Nick, but a tough start to the fourth quarter kind of did them in a little bit.
Yeah, and being a kid that grew up in Carroll and played Carroll football, I mean, you played Boyden Hull Rock Valley a couple times, so you know what kind of athletes Boyden Hull is able to put out there, and they've got talent, and that's for sure there. But yeah, it just sucks that you have to run into a team that I think was ranked in the top 5 to start the year. That top 5 team there, they lose their best players, so they kind of slip under the radar, and then at the end of the year, you do what everyone kind of didn't expect you to do. You get that player back, and everyone starts seeing them and goes, well, maybe Boyden Hull's got a chance here, but you get matched up with Kuhn. And I think that, Cal Hayden put up, I think, 24 points, but I think that their game plan might have been, Cal's going to score. Let's go stop everyone else, because everyone else had 5 points, 4 points, 4 points. So, I mean, that's kind of what you expect, though. If you're not going to put up a lot of points on the board there, your defense has to shine through. But I think they gave up a 13-2 run to start the fourth quarter, which, if you're a defensive coach like what Streben has been this season, being able to keep that defense that Corey had run down there, it's tough to see a team start to, give a big run to open up the fourth quarter when you're already trailing 3.
Yeah, and that's probably the disappointing part, is they've hung their hat on being such a great defensive team. But they're gonna have to bounce back from this. They're gonna have a chance to be really good again next year. I know they lose Cal, but as kind of the driving force behind some of the things. But if you look at the talent that they've got coming back, I think they certainly have the potential to be really good again next year.
Yeah, and what a career in basketball that Cal Hayden's had. I mean, first in points down at Kuhn, first in rebounds. I mean, he's probably top 5 in assists, steals, being a walking highlight almost every night for Kuhn down there. So what a basketball career first off that he's had. He's still got track and baseball ahead of him, and a lot of baseball ahead of him to be kind of short there, but Ty's going to step up next year. Caden's going to step up. You got kind of that group of 4 that you
Bryce
had this
Lewis
year. Jace Baker in there as well. I think Gavin Heiderscheit coming off the bench will be a nice piece for him. But
Bennett Heiderscheit as well. So
you're going to need some production from the bench, though, because a lot of your bench guys are going to start moving into that senior role where they're going to play either the 6th man or starting. So you're going to need maybe some freshmen or somebody from the 8th grade class to step up.
Yeah, and that's where development comes in so critical for high school coaches to be able to get in and work with the junior high and the the JV kids and stuff and run youth camps to start developing kids when they're younger because it's easier to replace talent and have kids ready to go when they do that. We mentioned some of the records for Cal. Special year for the Coon boys. We talked a little bit about the Coon girls too with their loss, but they broke a ton of records as well this season.
Yeah, and off the top of my head, I can't remember because we cover how many teams now. It's hard to remember.
Hart was assist and steals, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Maria Kleberg went over, 1,000 points.
They broke the 3-point record for this season.
Yep.
Devin had a picture of it, and it was like, they had girls, I think, in almost every statistical category within the top 10 creeping in there. You had girls at 7 or 6 for this stat here and there, but, I had said it on the air, and you can probably give a better look at it, but this is probably one of, if not the best athletic basketball groups that Coons had for girls in a long time.
Yep. Yeah, it's probably some of the best teams they've had since Lindsay Reese and Heidi Esdor and, Mary Halverson and Katie Dentlinger and those groups came through.
I know the name Heidi Esdor now.
You do?
I educated myself because
Okay.
she was the assist leader before Anna Hart.
Yep.
And so I knew that she played around kind of the late 2000s era.
Right.
So, you gave me, I know she's married now, so I don't know the exact last name that she's got. But
it's Heidi Lynch, if I remember correctly.
But yeah,
Yep.
credit to her. If you look at it, Anna's a great basketball player, and to break someone else's record, that just gives credit to how good Heidi was in high school as well.
Yep, absolutely. And I was lucky enough to cover those groups. Now, I'm going to sound like the dumb old guy here because sometimes I can be. I said 2 teams that got beat, a step short of the thing. You said there was 3. Remind me who our third
Kemper
team
girls.
was. Kemper girls. Yes,
I think we might have talked about them.
We may
because
have
they
last
played on
week.
a Saturday.
They played
but,
on a Saturday. Yep.
They fell short too, but they ran
Yep.
into a really good Des Moines Christian team. I was over there watching, and I helped Nick out for about the pregame.
Yes.
And so I kind of just watched that game. And, Kemper, it's the same story I had with Coon. They were there, and they were just
Yep.
a step behind of where they could have been. But, they ran into a Des Moines Christian team that likes to shoot the 3 ball. I think they shot 41 threes in that game and made like 29 of them or something. But credit to Des Moines Christian. They've been there and they've done that before. And that's kind of the story of all the 3 teams that lost. They ran into teams that have either won state titles or have competed at the state tournament in recent years, so they know what it means to win these type of big games.
Yeah, and we talked about some of the seniors for some of the other teams. You're going to lose an Elsa Tiefenthaler. You're going to lose a Kaylee Simons and stuff. So Kemper's going to be losing Charlotte Hackford. They're going to be losing some talented kids, but they've got a nice group. And I know Coach Yetmar, I did my recap interview with him that aired Saturday morning, on the Pizza Ranch Coaches Show. I know he's excited about what they can do, but he knows, as he said, he goes, we've got to get back to work as soon as we can get back to work and put some time in and develop some of the younger players to slide into those roles because they're going to be losing some key kids.
Yeah, and I look at what maybe Mackenzie Yetmar did this year. She's probably going to have to take a step forward, and she can shoot the 3 ball pretty well, but it's going to become kind of that Elsa Tiefenthaler role. She might have to take on the point guard role of bringing the ball down, facilitating an offense there. Addie Antover, she took a huge step forward athletically this year between volleyball and basketball. Now excited to see what she can maybe do in track and in soccer. I can't remember which one she plays. I think it was soccer.
Yeah.
I think she was a goalie in soccer. I can't remember
you're right.
for sure, but she took a huge step forward, so I'm excited to see what the offseason will bring for her as well. But, yeah, you're going to have to see maybe what these girls can do. Morgan Mashing defensively
this year. Have to shoot more
year,
threes. Yeah. She's knocking some down there late in the season. So.
Yeah, I don't think her dad would agree with us there if Scott's listening here. But, a great defensive team that they had this year as well. But, you're going to have to find that offensive source because Kaylee and Elsa was a lot of what that offense was on the floor this last year.
Yeah, absolutely. But, bringing up those recap interviews, of course, recap with the Carolyn, the Kemper coaches, and those were on the Pizza Ranch Coaches Show last week. We'll have not a full Pizza Ranch Coaches Show this week, but I'll talk with Coach Minahan and Coach Beeson about their wins that sent them to the state tournament. We'll recap both of those coming up here in just a moment. But also, we'll recap the season with them, but we know where they're playing and who they're playing. So that'll be this Saturday morning. But I think you were scheduled. I don't know if it happened or not this morning yet. Nope, Coach Treben, you guys rescheduled today? Okay.
But, I can almost tell you what probably is going to be said there.
Right, but
you're probably disappointed in what happened, but for him here, I think it'll be a good interview. First time of this is the first time that this happened here at Coon for them. It'll be the first time that Streben's dealt with this type of deal, but he's gonna look at this season and kind of be probably thankful of what they had, and now kind of the same thing Yetmar said, time to get back to work and figure out what next year is going to look like.
But for all of the other area schools and sports like bowling for Carroll and Kemper, the recap interviews are on our podcast center. So you can go to the podcast center. We do catch up with every single coach every week. And I think you got Lance Schultz recapped yesterday, if I remember correctly, for South Central Calhoun Wrestling for the boys. And we'll catch up with Coach Streben. Did you guys get a date and time set up? Tomorrow morning. So that'll be posted tomorrow morning and stuff. So you can find all of those recaps, again, with all of our area coaches. We're going to step away, take a break. We'll talk about the teams that are down at the state tournament. The Exira-Elkhorn Kimballton girls, they'll play tomorrow. Of course, the Carroll and Kemper boys both going down. And there's some familiarity with both of those teams, with the teams they get in the quarterfinals. We'll tell you about that when we come back with more of the KCIM Sports Rewind Show, brought to you by St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services.
As the athletes at your house prepare for hard work and fun of the season, remember that St. Anthony Rehab Services provides physical therapy for any sports injury that may sideline your member of the team. Sports injuries can plague kids of all ages and keep them from playing the sport they love. Athletes will be under the direct supervision of a certified and licensed healthcare professional in the newly renovated sports performance facility. If an injury is keeping your athlete out of the game, call St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
Gotta love it when we can play a little Bad Authority here in the morning there. And Born in Durung, of course, a local band. Jeff Blankman and Mason Nealon back with you on this Tuesday morning. It is a KCIM Sports Rewind. And Mason, we've got a game coming up tomorrow. I know you're excited to get to be a part of it. You'll be doing the color commentating as the Exira-Elkhorn Kimballton Spartan girls going to be playing in that opening round. We mentioned it earlier. They get St. Albert. It'll be tomorrow night. 6:45 is the scheduled tip time. They won't start earlier. The state doesn't do that. But if there's anything that goes double or triple overtime, it could get pushed back a little bit. But we'll plan on going on with our pregame on Kick 106.7 about 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes prior to the start of that game tomorrow night. But the Spartans, 22 straight wins going into their opening round. They knocked off a very good and young, talented GTRA team 57-38 last week in their SubState final last Wednesday, or their regional final, excuse me. But just dominant defensively. We talk all the time about how great of a coach Tom Peterson is and the way he game plans. It was impressive to me that this is a team, kind of like what the Carroll boys did last night. We'll talk about it here in a moment. But, this is a team that we know. They like to play man-to-man. They like to press you a little bit. They like to jump passing lanes. They like to get out and really run with the ball and to play more of an up-tempo style. Well, they didn't feel like they matched up well with GTRA in that type of a game. So they go to a 2-3 zone. I don't know if I've ever seen a Coach Peterson team, and I'm sure they have, but, I don't think I've seen this team play a 2-3 zone, and what a 2-3 zone they played that night. GTRA struggled a little bit from the field, wasn't able to really get many three-point shots to fall, but a dominant defensive performance, kind of took control of the game in the second quarter and go on to win it. But, it just tells you how coachable this group of kids is, that, hey, we're not going to play the way we normally play. We're going to play a completely different style. We're going to slow things down. We're going to go into a zone, and they still find a way to go out and really control that game.
Yeah, and I would not be surprised if Tom were to take that 2-3 zone and throw it back in at St. Albert, because Kuhn kind of did that at the middle part of the game as they started putting into a 2-3 zone, and St. Albert didn't look comfortable shooting the outside shot. I think they were more comfortable with using the size down low, but, with Malia and Ashton, those two, physically, they are bigger girls, tall girls. They're right. Able to, guard some of those girls. But I would trust Harlow Miller and Jalen Peterson a ton more, because Jalen, one of the most physical girls you're going to see on the floor, and Harlow's just naturally athletic and tall, so she can grab a lot of boards and block some shots for them. But I tell you what, if they go to a 2-3 zone, I'm going to sit there and say that's credit to the coaching, because Tom's done his homework, saw what happened against Coon Rapids Baird, and says, you know what, if they're not willing to shoot the outside shot, we're going to have two guards in Cadence and Taryn that are going to chase them off the three-point line. Right. And we're going to have three girls in Riley Miller, Harlow Miller, and Jalen Peterson down low that are willing to battle for rebounds and block some shots and just play super physical defense.
Yeah, you mentioned Harlow, 15 rebounds in that win over GTRA the other night against a team that didn't match up size-wise with her and Jaylyn inside. So Jaylyn goes for 14.6 rebounds, and it was Harlow scored 9 points and pulled down 15 rebounds. But what a team effort. You had Taryn Peterson with 21 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, and 6 steals. And Cadence Brandon Spohr also had 7 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals. And Riley Miller was fantastic that night on the defensive end. Didn't get credit for some of the steals, but got hands on a lot of passes that created turnovers and those types of things. And I thought one of the key things that Cadence said in the postgame was that Tom told him before the game, no one player can take this game over. This has got to be a team effort, and that's exactly the way they went out and played. And you mentioned St. Albert, their offensive rebounding is really good. I know that's an area that Coach Peterson is concerned about, so that's going to put some pressure on Jaylyn and on Harlow to be able to go out there and control the boards on the defensive side and maybe allow them to get out and run a little bit.
It's back to fundamentals and back to effort there. I mean, you gotta box out. You gotta almost create kind of a barrier of maroon jerseys there and let the ball fall, get the rebound there, and it's an effort thing. I mean, if you really want to be a good rebounder and want to rebound the ball well as a team, it's just find a body and get them out of the way. It's that simple there, but you know, it's easier said than done against teams that are athletic and know how to get around different box outs there, but it just starts with the fundamentals and the effort there. If you box out and you really want to get rebounds there, you will start to be a better rebounding team.
Yeah, rebounding is about want and effort and just wanting the ball more than somebody else. Boxing out is hugely important. For the Spartans, if they would win, they would play the winner of New Alfonda and St. Ansgar in the semifinals this Friday at 3:15, and the championship game is scheduled for 7 o'clock on Saturday night. So that is kind of the schedule coming up for Exira and Kimballton this week. Let's take a look at Kemper. They advanced with a really nice 54-48 victory, kind of held on against Roland Story the other night. Built that lead a little bit, but Roland Story just kind of kept chipping away. Mason wasn't going to go away. Had a chance there late in the game, but Jack Bading with his score tied at 48 apiece after the defense had made a couple of stops. Drains a big three, then makes a steal on the other end of the floor. Got it ahead to Dylan Joan, who then made one of 2 free throws that didn't seal it quite at that point, but made it a 2-possession game with well under a minute to go, and they end up holding on for a 54-48 victory. So they got what they want. They made the state tournament. I don't know if they were completely 100% happy with how everything played out for them the other night and the way they played the entire game, but they were able to do enough to get through.
Yeah, and Jack, I mean, big time player right there. Probably gets it from his father. I think Brian was before your time as a basketball player, but he was good. He was the most points in the game holder before Parker Bading. Right. So, I mean, that's just kind of in his blood there. I think Jack's worked for that moment for a lot of his life there. But for Kemper, Griffin Glenn goes out, and right away you see him limping. And I think everyone knew, he's a little bit banged up, but then he goes out there and almost looked like he almost aged like fine wine. I mean, he got better when the game went on there. I mean, physically wise, but Dylan Schoen, I mean, he started to get some buckets there as of late. Ryan Clare had some buckets. I think Teddy Perkins and Tanner Bading stepped up as well, as Teddy started the game with, 10 points?
9 right away, and if he didn't have those 9 in the first quarter, they may be finding themselves down in the first quarter because it was his 3 threes that were really most of their offense in that first quarter.
Yeah, and I got to give credit to Roland Story, though. I mean, they had a pretty good game plan against this Kemper team. They're sitting a 2-3 zone. I think Kemper diced a 2-3 zone early, but then in the second half, they kind of were like, well, we're up here. Maybe let's just pull off the gas a little bit and give ourselves a little bit of a break.
They had a hard time finding the creases in that 2-3 zone. They were tearing up the 2-3 zone earlier against Sadell, but they didn't find the creases in that 2-3 zone. That's a really good 2-3 zone that Roland Story puts out there. So
and I don't remember the big guy's name down low, but he had a really nice
Van
night.
Hove.
He when Ryan was guarding him, he was able to kind of get under his arm or maybe go around him or whatever and get buckets, but yeah, that they're going to have to play a little bit better because Union's a team that knows how to beat Kemper. And I put that in the lightest way possible. But Union last year was the underdog against Kemper in their sub-state final and said, you know what, let's just go out and beat them. They beat them. They're the underdog now in a bigger venue. And this is all too familiar territory for both teams.
Yeah, going to be playing in the same community, just not the same arena that they played in a year ago, because Union again knocked off Kemper in that sub-state final a year ago at Drake. In talking with the Kemper guys after the game, they really wanted a shot at Union, whether it be in the sub-state or here at the state tournament. They get them in that opening round. But as you said, Union's going to come in. A lot of guys back from last year's team. They embarrassed themselves down at the state tournament by not playing very well in that opening round loss. So, for them, it isn't about beating Kemper a second time. It is, but it's not really about Kemper. It's about them avenging what they felt like they didn't do right last year. They played so well in the sub-state final and then went down and kind of struggled in that quarterfinal round game. So they're going to be kind of having that same hunger to say, hey, folks, we were here a year ago and we just didn't perform. Now we're back and we're going to go out and perform.
Yeah, and I'll be surprised to see the rest of these matchups here in 2A because, it's straight heavy hitters. 1 through 8 is a bunch of heavy hitters here with Trainer Grundy, Unity Christian, Western Christian, and Regina AP there. And we kind of joked as well. 3 of those come from the same conference with AP, Grundy, and Union. But, we've seen Trainer before. I haven't seen Unity, Western, or Regina, but I know that they're all good because of what they've put out there this year, and I've seen a couple of highlights, but not full games. So, 2A might be one of the better classes that we're going to see with games that are going to be put in front of you.
Well, Unity Christian used to be a 3A power, now down in 2A. Western Christians has always been a power in 2A, and if I remember correctly, I think they're the 2-time defending state champions and stuff, so they're going to be really good. The athletes that Regina Catholic's going to put out onto the floor. We've seen that for years. And then, as you mentioned, Kemper and Union, and then Applington Parkersburg has a tremendous history of being a proud athletic program as well. And they're not that terribly far. They're right up there by Cedar Falls, so they're a hop, skip, and a jump from getting down to Des Moines as well. So they're about as far of a drive as we are because they can shoot right down 20, down 35, and get there in about the same amount of time, even though they've got a little bit farther mileage-wise. So, but should be a good one for Kemper. Again, they get the winner of the Trainer Grundy Center game. Not anything against Trainer, even though they're the 4 seed. There's just something about Grundy Center and the way they play basketball up in that part of the state that I won't be surprised. Some people will say if a 5 beats a 4, it's an upset. I sit here and I say, not when I look, at how good those teams are. But I will also answer with this. The WIC looked really good in the postseason so far here on the boys' side of things. Riverside, who finished 6th, got all the way into a matchup with St. Edmund and pushed St. Edmund, who was ranked number 1 and stuff in Class 1A, and pushed them in their sub-state final. So the Western Iowa Conference has proved to be pretty strong this year.
Yeah, and even Audubon, getting to a district final there. But I tell you what, Grundy Center might have the most fun athlete outside of our area, outside of who I called one of the most fun athletes, Drayshawn Ross. Judd Jarofsky, a phenomenal football player, phenomenal basketball player, elite golfer.
Yep.
And then I think he does baseball as well, and I think he's a pretty good pitcher is what I hear, but he's a kid that's going to play golf at Stanford, which is where Tiger Woods went to play golf.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I kind of joked about if there was a kid we could cover, it'd be Drayshawn Ross. Judd's got to be in that conversation as well. But, having a kid like that has to give you a good chance against Trainer. But we saw what Trainer did with Kuhn. And if Trainer wouldn't have, kind of taken their foot off the gas against Kuhn, that could have been a 30-point game. But
I think if Kuhn would have played better in the first half, it would have been a little tighter game too. So
you could go both ways. But, I wouldn't be surprised either way, 4 or 5, because I kind of quoted it saying a technicality upset because of the numbers. But, Grundy's traditionally been good. And if Kemper were to see Grundy again, it's the same thing as 2 years ago. They played Grundy in a sub-state final and lost to them at Boone High School, and I was in attendance for that one as well. So Grundy's been kind of that good team for a couple of years now.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's going to be fun. You mentioned the young man from Grundy. I will just say this. I hear so many people say that you have to specialize to be good. You look at kids like that, great athlete in every single sport. You can go out and be an athlete and have the one that you love and put a little more work into that one, so that's the one that you really shine in. But he puts in the work to everything, and look at the career that he's had in every single sport. He's a 4-sport star, and I think we need more kids, especially at the bigger schools, wanting to play more sports and be involved in more and helping their entire sports programs. And you can still be ultra successful in the one. He's going to Stanford to golf. You're not doing that unless you are really good in that sport. So
yeah, but you got Carroll and Kemper in the state tournament for the first time since 2010, you said?
Yep,
so
for the first time. So, and Carroll with a 58-55, heart-wrenching type of win last night. They had to come up clutch down the stretch. Trey Tassel with a couple of huge threes back-to-back for them. They fell down for the first time in that game last night, 34-33, I think it was, and then Trey hits a three, and actually it was 33-32, and then he puts them back up at 35-33. Then Sioux Center ties it at 35, and then Trey drains another three to make it 38-35. And not saying they didn't look back after that, but they never got tied, never gave up the lead the rest of the game, but never really could put Sioux Center away last night either.
And I will say, I don't know what it is, but Trey just comes alive in big games. I mean, he was the best player on the floor in the Kemper game, and now was arguably the best player on the floor in this Sioux Center game.
He was our Culver's player of the game last
night.
So,
I mean, he's an athlete that just goes out there, and when they need it, he goes out there and makes it and gets it done. But, I mean, Carroll, it was kind of scary there for a minute. I mean, you had a couple of times where you thought, wow, Sioux Center just blew this game open, and they have a chance to make a run here, and then Carroll would stop them defensively and go get their own bucket. And that's what Randy Beeson does really well, is he gets everyone bought in on the defensive end, gets everyone bought in on both ends there, and they just produce what they can get everything out of everyone there. But I think that might have been the most emotion I've seen from Coach Beeson last night, is after he cut down the net. I mean, he was fist pumping, yelling there, and I was just happy to see that because, that's a team that deserves it. These kids have worked for it, and I've heard for how long now, when they were freshmen, that senior group that is out there now, this senior group's really good. They're like, when they were freshmen, they go, this freshman group could be something really special, and now you see that time has paid off.
Yeah, absolutely. All the hard work that they've put in the off season certainly has paid off. So, yeah, I remember Casey saying last night with his cousin being from Sheldon playing Sioux Center all the time that they were a second-half team. They outscored Carroll by just 2 in the second half. So, great adjustments by Randy Beeson and that coaching staff to not allow Sioux Center to come out in a tight game in the second half and rally and take control of that game. They did give up the lead briefly there in the third quarter. So they get Pella, and anybody that's familiar with Doug Deers from here is going to know that Doug is on the Pella staff, and Mac's got a cousin that's playing right now for Pella, so they're going to get to play against each other in the opening round. They'll play Monday at 12:15. We'll have that game for everybody on Kick 106.7. I think it's you and I going to be having the coverage of that one, so that one should be a lot of fun. That should be an interesting game. Pella's a traditional power. Carroll is so good, especially on the defensive end, and they seem to make some clutch shots. They had some big threes last night in that third quarter that allowed them to stave off every run that Sioux Center seemed to make at them last night. But I just wanted to point out 2 of them have to play each other, but 4 of the 8 teams that are in the Class 3A field all play in the Raccoon River Conference. So that conference has definitely prepared Carroll for anything they're going to see down there at the state tournament.
And if you want to count future with next year, 5 of them with Pella.
Yep.
And you kind of
Carroll leaves.
I was going to say, you kind of quoted this last night. It's the team that's going to be heading into the Raccoon River versus the team that's going to be leaving the Raccoon River. So we're going to see kind of that little storyline play out there. And that's what makes games fun, is if you have that kind of underlying story of, like Kemper Union. Last season, that Union lost embarrassingly in the first round at state, and Kemper lost to Union to get to state. And now for Carroll, it's, we're trying to show that we're still one of the best teams in the Raccoon River, and, we're not leaving because we're scared of the Raccoon River. We're leaving because the Hawkeye 10 becomes a better fit. But, I mean, if you look at it here, Gilbert almost got Ballard the first time around there. ADM probably going to get Solon if Wahlert wins tonight. Storm Lake probably going to get Wahlert there. And, Storm Lake kind of struggled with SBL a little bit in the second half there, so I wouldn't be surprised if that game's pretty tight. But I think Pella Carroll might be the most close kind of, and you expect this out of a 4-5 game,
matchup,
but this might be the most competitive game you're going to see out of the field.
And we're still waiting who on ADM and Storm Lake will play. There's a game that got moved from last night to tonight because the Dubuque Wahlert girls were playing at the state tournament last night, so they didn't want to have their boys playing one place and the girls another, so everybody could go support the girls. So we'll find out who ADM and Storm Lake play later on tonight after that game goes to final. So Mason, we covered in a half hour and a little bit more. So
we're just giving a preview of when we go to 45 minutes to an hour.
Absolutely. That'll be starting a month from now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll be able to catch up with more of our area college kids starting here in early April. But again, our Rewind All-Star festivities coming up a week from this Saturday, and we're finalizing a lot of the stuff. Got the T-shirt order in yesterday, and just over 100 T-shirts ordered. And so we thank Outlaw Graphics for doing that for us. And got to get the certificates printed out so you can spend a couple hours signing them, and because we know you love doing that, right?
Yeah, the football one took a little bit longer, but we'll see how this one goes. You're sitting down and signing a bunch of certificates, and I feel bad for some of the kids that get them in the later part of the me signing process because my hand gets a little tired and the signature becomes a little less pretty than the first one.
We just got to get you in shape so that you're used to signing. So we'll just make you sign things
I'm too used to typing. You're from that generation of pen and paper. I'm from the generation of typing. So if you could let me artificially type my signature on there, we'd be good.
I told you could probably get one of those things where you just stamp it and you just stamp them all. But it is a little more personal when you wear the arm out, signing them. Real quick, Iowa women 2-seed in the Big Ten tournament. Do they win it?
No.
Who beats them?
I don't know. I have not looked at the field yet.
Okay.
I just don't. I don't have confidence in Iowa for the girls. They're a really good team, but I think the Big Ten is just a very good conference.
They finished second in it.
I'm just like you get to conference tournament time, you get to the March time, and everything's kind of on the table here. I mean, you've almost seen everything surprises wise. So you almost know that there's a bag of tricks waiting around the corner for each of these. So I'm not confident in any single team winning any single game because I know that any team can get beat.
Well, and I tell you what, the Big Ten men, Iowa, did they get a bye in the opening round?
I also don't know.
Okay. And then in the Big 12, Iowa State women got to right the ship. Haven't been playing very well here. I think teams have kind of figured out maybe some ways to be able to beat them. And then the Iowa State men still playing really good basketball, but they got kind of thumped last night. Never were really in that game against Arizona on the road. And they've now dropped 2 straight. So I think they're still a team that can make a deep run and win that conference tournament. But they've got to fix something. They've been out physical, that seems like, here the last 2 games. And they got to figure out how to play near as well on the road as they do at home. They're so good at home, even though they dropped a game here at home for the first time. But they haven't been as good on the road. They're going to have to fix that. But Big 12 tournament's going to be coming up here on KCIM. So we'll have both the Iowa State men and women's game. So if you're a Cyclone fan, you can follow Cyclone Athletics right here on KCIM.
And I will say, you got two ends of the sword there. Of you either drop the Big 12 tournament early and wait for March, or you win the Big 12 and you kind of play yourself through all the way to March.
It is March Madness time, and that means all of our girls and boys state basketball coverage will be over on our sister station of Kick 106.7. So, Mason, appreciate you coming in for a rewind this morning, and enjoy about an hour off before you have to come back into work.
Yeah, I'll be back here really soon.
That is KCIM Sports Rewind for this Tuesday morning.